good morning, everybody. My name's David. It is my pleasure to welcome you this morning. And I just want to kind of give you a heads up that today's going to look a little different than most days. If you are familiar with Northridge and the way we do things, we're very family focused, and we like to include our kids. And so today's going to be a day that's all about bringing the family together. So whether you are snuggle on a couch with your immediate family, or whether you are watching this over Facebook, knowing that you're together with family, and maybe we're your family and we're honored to be so, we just want you to understand that today's going to look a little different. We're going to start with some worship that is generally a little more geared towards our kids. You'll get a bit of a taste of what they do when we're out in the main service normally. And then we're going to watch a short video that will set the story so that we're all get on the same page as to who we're talking about. And then there's this incredible talk show that will interview the person that we've just learned about in the video. And that's all fun and good, and hopefully you do take something away from this. Hopefully it can be an enjoyable and informative and meaningful time for you and your family. But then following that, I do want to meet with you again. I'll come back here and it'll be a message more for the adults. And what I want to do is I want to take the context of what you're about to see, what you're about to experience, and I want to push that forward into where we want to go in this series about faith and fear. So I hope that after the talk show, you'll come back and join me for a bit of a teaching and a look forward to where we're going in this series. So in the meanwhile, you know what? Sing your guts out and enjoy this time together, and we'll see you soon. Hello, and sorry for the interruption here. It's about 11 o'clock at night, Saturday night, and run into a couple of little snags. As it turns out, we had planned on showing you some kids videos, but those are copyrighted. And so you know what? It's a good lesson to learn that I just shouldn't be using stuff without permission. So you'll be able to find those videos on our Spotify and YouTube playlists. The links will be on the website under the actual video. And I've also had to reduce the Lego movie. And also what we'll do is link the full length video, the YouTube URL on our video, so you can go and see that when you want. So things are gonna look a little different. Sorry for all the confusion. We'll figure this out just in time to get back and meet as a church in real life. Anyways, God bless you, and enjoy this clip of Lego Noah.
Noah, the world has become so wicked. Time is running out for the people of Earth. I created them to have life, but they have chosen death instead. It breaks my heart because I love them. It makes me sad that I created them at all. So I am going to cover the whole earth with a flood. Build yourself an ark made out of gopher wood. Make lots of rooms inside and seal it to make it waterproof. The ark should be 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high. Leave an opening all around the roof and put a door in the side. Take 2 of every kind of living creature onto the ark with you. Take 2 of every bird, 2 of all livestock and wild animals, and 2 of all creatures that move on the ground. Take 2 of every kind, 1 male and 1 female, so that they may be preserved from the flood and start new families. And be sure that you take enough food for both you and the animals.
Brace yourselves. Welcome to the Sunday Morning Show. This is the show where we get the most interesting people you've ever heard of and bring them on the show to learn a little bit more about them. Today, it is my absolute pleasure. It's my pleasure and my pleasure to introduce you to a rad dad, employee of the century, animal lover, and founding member of the Hebrews Hall of Faith. Please welcome Noah!
I'm just self-isolating after my cruise.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. All right. Well, Noah, I have to say that I love your beard. You are a really manly man to have grown such a lush, well-groomed face of hair.
Thank you.
No, like, it's magnificent. Your wife must go crazy for it. Is there a particular oil or treatment that you use for it?
No.
And I like your accent. Are you Jewish?
Actually, I was born before the Jews were invented.
Wow. You are old. And speaking of old, I've heard all about your kids. How's fatherhood treating you? Wait, don't answer that. I just thought of another question I had for you. Someone told me that you were pretty old when you first fathered your children. How old were you?
500?
500 years old? Wow, I heard that people lived a lot longer in those days, but 500? That's incredible. I have so many questions about that, but this is a family show, and now that I think about it, you had some relatives who lived for a really long time ago as well, didn't you? Like in Genesis 5, I think it was, they talk about your grandpas, your great-grandpas, your great-great-grandpas,
Yeah, my relatives, yes.
Right. Well, I heard one named Jared lived to be 962. And Methuselah died when he was 969. But you were really a 500-year-old father? Wow. Where did you get the energy? And now that I think about that, what kind of you did kind of break the mold, didn't you?
What do you mean by that?
Well, it was after you that God said, enough is enough. This is ridiculous. People shouldn't live this long. From now on, 120 years is like max. Wow. A new dad at 500 years old. Noah, you are pretty incredible. But that's only the beginning of how incredible you are. Am I right, folks? I also read that you and your family were the only people who served God on the planet. And when I say that you were the only people who served God, I mean that you were like the only non-evil people on the entire planet. It sounds like the earth was a bit of a hot mess in your day.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I'd say that was an understatement. It sounds like it was really bad. So bad, in fact, that God called for a do-over. Man, I can't even imagine that. Like, I was playing Minecraft the other day. I had created an entire village. The buildings were sweet. The barn and the horses inside were perfect. I made myself a mansion. It was amazing. But that only took me like a week of quarantine to make. You would have, if you would have asked me to erase everything that I had created, I would have freaked out. Like, I mean, freaked out. So I guess it must have been like pretty bad back then.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Right. So God must have been really upset with how bad things had gotten. I heard that he had had enough and made a plan to wipe everything out. and start all over again. But the good news is that he saw your family loved it. And he decided that he would have you be the only family that he saved from disaster. Wow, he must have really liked you, and must have really been ticked off at all those other people.
I can see that.
So you must have been like serving him and worshiping him, even though nobody else was. Man, that must have been rough. It must have been like being at school and every other kid is like swearing and pulling each other's hair and throwing paper balls at the teacher and sticking gum on people's seats and, well, being bad. Meanwhile, this is you. Like, you're like praying for lunch while everybody else is kicking each other in the shins, running in the halls and burping. It sounds like it was pretty bad. So anyways, God came up with a plan to start all over again. He told you the plan, which must have been pretty cool, talking to God like that. And he told you the plan was going to be to flood the entire planet. Like, the entire planet. Like, the Pacific Ocean is pretty huge. I probably couldn't even swim that far. But this is like all the oceans and everything in between would be underwater. Crazy. So he asked you to build a boat?
Yeah.
Right.
An ark.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot bigger, right? I mean, I think I read that it was big. So how big was it? Like about the size of a house? Or because that's big. Or maybe the size of like a big boat. Yeah, wow. Or maybe as long as like a semi-truck and trailer.
Actually,
like how big was it?
Yeah, actually it was the length of almost 2 football fields.
Are you for real? Are you just messing with me? For real? Wait, I'm going to check this myself. I think it was in like Genesis chapter 6, verse 15. Huh. It says here it was only 300 cubits long. No, are you messing with me?
Check the
300
message
cubits long
version.
sounds way smaller than almost 2 football fields.
Check the message version.
Okay, good idea. Hold up, I've got it here on my phone. Let's see, Genesis, what did I say? Genesis 6:15. Okay, let me just... Wow! It says it was 450 feet! That's huge! Wow, that is a huge boat. I can only imagine that the ark would have been like,
Huge?
Definitely. So, wait a minute. Who helped you build the boat? If the people at that time were so evil, they probably wouldn't have helped you work on the ark with you. But you did have kids, right? But really, you only had 3 sons. And actually, I meant to ask you about that. You named your sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right?
Right, yes.
Okay, so Shem's an unusual name, but it sounds pretty cool. Like Shem. And Japheth, I guess you could call him like Japh for short. But Ham? You seriously named your kid Ham? Like, was he chubby? Or did you run out of time to think of a name? You only had 500 years? But Ham? But anyways, it was just you and your family building a 450-foot long boat. That must have taken you like almost a year to build.
Actually, 100 years.
100 years?
Yeah.
That's a long time. I can't even get my kids to empty the dishwasher without complaining. But that must have been rough. And what about all the evil people around you? They must have been wondering, like, what was going on? I mean, someone who's building a boat for 100 years, that has to draw some attention. And those people were like really evil. I bet they made things pretty rough for you. They probably called you all sorts of names and maybe spat on you. I can only imagine how hard you must have been mocked for building a boat that big for 100 years.
Yeah, well, if you actually look in the Bible, it doesn't say any of that. But yeah, you can assume it was pretty bad. Pretty bad.
I bet. So, 100 years later, you're finally done the boat. Then your family, what, just hopped in there and sat there?
Well, first we need to get the animals.
Oh, you're right. I forgot you brought some animals, right?
No, we brought all the animals.
All the animals? Wait a minute. I'm checking you on that one. Let me see. Genesis 7, I think this time. Let's see, verses 2 to 5. I'll stick with the message on this one. I don't want to hear about cubits of animals. I want hard numbers. Okay, let's see. Okay, God said, take on board with you 7 pairs of every clean animal, a male and a female. 1 pair of every unclean animal, a male and a female. And 7 pairs of every kind of bird, a male and a female, to ensure their survival on earth. In just 7 days, I will dump rain on earth for 40 days and 40 nights. I'll make a clean sweep of everything I've made. It says here that you did everything that God commanded you. Whoa, that's intense. All of a sudden, that boat doesn't seem too big. Right. All right. Man, I thought it was tough enough to self-isolate in our home with 4 other people. You had 4 families and every animal on the boat. Wait, does that include dinosaurs? Oh, tell me you sailed with dinosaurs. That would be incredible. And you just walked them all up into the boat? Well, right. You walked them all up into the ark, and then it started to rain. So now, I live in Mission, so I know what rain looks like. We seem to get 40 days and 40 nights like all the time, and we don't float away. So I looked that up. It was in I think Genesis 7, 11, and 12. I'll go back to the ESV for this one. It says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day of the month, on that day, all the fountains of the great deep burst forth. And the windows of the heavens were open, and the rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Well, this does not sound like the rain we get in Mission, let's just say. So the earth, at this point, was completely flooded. You float around, you just float around there for how long?
For about a year.
Interesting. An entire year of being on a boat or ark with 4 families and every animal, maybe even dinosaurs. That's incredible. So I read the part about using birds as like test pilots to see if it was safe to come out. Then you came out, and God built you a rainbow to show His promise that He would never flood the earth again. Well, that's pretty cool. I still have so many questions though. Like, how did you keep working for 100 years on an ark when there wasn't even enough water to float it? How did you deal with all the people who probably made fun of you and your belief in God? You must have had a lot of faith. I guess that's one of the first things we learn about you. In the end, your faith in God helped you to be obedient, even when things got hard. Noah, there's just so much that you need to tell us in this interview. Just let me kind of check the time. Oh no! We have completely unfortunately run out of time. Unfortunately, we'll have to say goodbye to this great man of faith. I am so impressed with how your faith in God enabled you to be obedient to all the wild and wonderful things that he was asking you to do. I'm also glad that you survived that ride in that long ark ride. Well, so on behalf of my guest, Noah, this has been the Sunday morning show. We'll see you some other time for another mind-blowing interview with someone mind-blowingly interesting. Until that time, we say goodbye.
All right, welcome back. Well, you just met Noah, good-looking guy. Hopefully there were some nuggets that you took out of that. I think, unfortunately, the format doesn't lend itself to the real point that I'd like to hammer home, and the point I'd like to use to set up where we're going in the future of this sermon series. What I want to use Noah as an example of is a man whose faith was stronger than the really rational fears that he should have had in the time that he lived. And I want to paint this picture of, the scales of justice, or the old-fashioned scales where you would measure the weight of something. You'd put a certain amount of known measured weight on one side, and then you'd measure that against the object you're weighing. And eventually, by taking weights off and putting weights on, you find out the weight. You find this balance of what it is you're weighing. I want to paint this picture that every day, for every one of this is universal. This is not applying to some people and not others, but every day we walk through life with this scales, or this balance in action. And on either side of the scale, on one hand, you've got faith. And on the other hand, you've got fear. And I want to explain that a little bit. There are a lot of things that we can be afraid of. Right now, we're going through something where it can stir up some fear. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I want to start with the idea of feeding fear. And then we'll talk about feeding faith. When it comes to feeding fear, there's some ways we can do it. Sometimes we're very intentional. I'm not a big fan of horror movies or really scary movies, but some people are. And for me, it's more a case where, like, I can handle if it is so unrealistic that it's just kind of goofy that, whatever, right? I don't pursue that, but it won't bother me. But if it's something that could actually happen, whether it be this man with a rage problem who's doing some damage, or something supernatural like a movie like The Exorcist, where that could happen. Those are things that feed my fear. Another way we could feed fear is and you know what, again, just like with a scary movie, there are a variety of different ways that we react to this. For me, I don't react well to a horror movie. Other people aren't bothered by it at all. In the same way, the news can feed our fear, or it can just inform us. But if you watch the news, if you read the newspaper, does anybody read a newspaper anymore? If you scroll the internet, and you are seeing things that are scaring you, well, then you're feeding that fear. Now, some people, and thank goodness for these people, I think my wife's one of these people. She can consume that kind of information and put it in its proper place. It doesn't fuel fear. But for some of us, that is feeding or fueling fear. It's giving fear weight in the balance. On the flip side, we have faith. And in the same way that we can feed our fears, we can feed our faith. And there are some hopefully obvious ways we can do that. We can be in the Word. Northridge is reading through the Bible together. And that's one of those ways when we draw things out of the Bible, and then when we connect in fellowship and talk about it, when we hear from people who have studied the Word and have a way to expound on what we've read. These are ways that we can feed our faith. When we spend time with the Father, when we spend time in the presence of God, that can feed our faith. Doing these things, it gives weight to our faith. It brings like gravitas, like it makes it a little bit more meaty. And so when it's put in the scales against our fear, our faith can overcome. It can weigh more. It can mean more to us than our fear. And that's where we get a guy like Noah. Somehow, somewhere, God connected to him in a way that was so personal, so intimate, so deep, that it didn't matter what was going on around him. It must have been absolutely freaky for him to be a part of the only family on earth who served God. We think of the influence our culture has on us and on our kids today. And there's no comparison. There is no way that God would say about a certain one single family on earth today that they are the one family that is following God, that loves God, and that every other family, every other person needs to be wiped out because they are evil. That's not true today. But in the days of Noah, God was explicit in his word that they were the only family following God. So you can only imagine the culture, the climate, the world that they lived in was so heavily anti-God. It was evil. In fact, if you do some digging and learn about what was happening, there was some overtly spiritual, evil things happening on the earth. This is why God got to the point of saying, enough's enough. I'm wiping out the earth. We're starting over with Noah's family. But I want to come back to Noah. And that faith that he had was so deeply rooted, so weighty in an understanding and an unshakable belief in who God was, that when you weighed it against the things of the earth, the potential fears of the earth, there was no competition with Noah. He was not swayed. Not for 500 years, and not for that 100 years where he was building the boat. Now, he had some stumbles ironically, after he got off the boat, after seeing God do this miracle. He had some problems. But where I want to really press in is this idea that we can have the same faith as Noah. It's available to us. The same God, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the same, and he's available in an even more intimate way today than he was for Noah. We can know him. We can have a deep faith so that when you weigh it against the fears, we're not thrown about like the waves in the sea. We're unshakable. And that's where we want to go over the next several weeks. I hope that you will join us. I just want to kind of point you back one last time. We'll come full circle. Point you back to those devotionals that Alex Connor has been putting out each week. Don't miss an opportunity. If you are isolated with your family, if you have the opportunity, or maybe you can even do it via Zoom or whatever, don't miss out on the opportunity to do these devotionals as a family and be blessed by it. We'll probably see you throughout the week. I hope you know of all the opportunities you have to connect. There shouldn't be anybody out there that is walking through this alone. We want to connect with you. And if you're new, if you haven't been with Northridge in the past, and if you don't know all of these ways of connecting, I just want to encourage you, go to Northridge Church's website, nrchurch.ca, and hopefully there nothing will be hidden from you. You'll have all the access to all of the different connection points throughout the week. First thing you could do is sign up for our email. You could do that on the website. Just subscribe to the email, and then tomorrow morning you'll get in your inbox a complete week at a glance for how you can connect with others during this time. Well, I guess that plane's telling me it's time to go. So I hope you get to enjoy the rest of your coffee and rest of your Sunday. Bless you, and we'll see you next week.